Welcome to Bears on Tap, hosted by Quentin Q. Crisco, Samir Patel, Sonny Verma, and the one and only Ron Luce, bringing you all the news, analysis, and opinions on the charter franchise, Chicago Bears.
And welcome into another episode of Bears on Tap. My name is Quentin Crisco, and as usual, we're joined by our friend Brendan Shagru. And also tonight, we have Seth Conklin, one of our writers over at On Tap Sportsnet, joining us. Starting with Brendan, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing pretty good, Q. Still licking the wounds a little bit over the weekend. But I mean, I know you guys did the post game already, but I really did come away after that deflating feeling of the interception to end on fourth down. I still felt okay. I still feel okay. And I'm just looking forward to the Bears kind of showing that they can bounce back and show resiliency and, get back into the win column against the Browns. I don't feel as depressed after a Bears-Packers game for the first time in years, which is weird.
Yeah, I actually, I had some family stuff going on, so I wasn't even able to catch the end of the game. Like, I was out at a restaurant. We saw what was happening, kind of, but I didn't get the chance to watch it all until today. And I was watching. I tweeted out some of my thoughts, but like I was kind of with you. Like I don't feel that down about it. I feel like there was a lot of good in there and a lot of like stuff that is easy fixes, I guess, is the way that I kind of felt about it. But Seth, how are you feeling coming into tonight?
Well, it's no secret that I am a far more pessimistic a viewer of things, as many that know me will know that. I feel a little bit better a few days removed, but it's still one of those things where it's the Packers, and somehow there's always those one or two plays where it's like, is this divine intervention? Why, like, is this Groundhog's Day? Why do we keep doing this? And you almost knew it was coming. Like, there were moments where it's just like that 21-yard run where it's like, something's going to happen right here. We're going to do something. And then sure enough, it happens. And you almost just like laugh because you're like, yep, it's about what happens. But, at least they finished, well, before the interception, they finished strong. So feel a little bit better, but it takes time to recover after those Packers losses.
It absolutely does. I'd be lying if I didn't say there was still a bit of a pit in my stomach over it. Like, even though I'm finding positives, I'm like, it still sucks that they it's kind of like 2018 week 1, right? It was like there was so much to feel good about coming out of that, but at the end of the day, it was still like they still got it. Like, god dang it. But enough about the Packers. Like you said, Brendan, we already had a post-game show about it. If you haven't heard it, make sure to go check that out on the podcast feed or the YouTube channel. But we're here to talk about the Bears returning to Soldier Field against the Cleveland Browns. And I'm going to pop up their roster here on our graphic, starting with Seth this time. Do you have any just kind of overarching thoughts about what the Browns are this year and kind of how their outlook is right now?
They're just such an odd team because their defense is so good. And it's not just Myles Garrett. I know it's easy to be like, wow, Myles Garrett's got 1 billion sacks, but they're sound in almost every aspect. And that makes them, tricky down the road, but their offense is just so inconsistent in every conceivable way. So it's one of those things where if they randomly get hot, they can be a very tricky team to play because that defense is not anything to mess around with. And as we kind of saw last week, though the Titans are not a great team, if Shador gets a little bit hot, that team can score some points. And if that defense does what it does, it can get dirty in a hurry.
Yeah, it absolutely can. And Brendan, do you have any thoughts about the Browns before I have something that I want to touch on, but I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are first.
Well, kind of going off of what Steph was saying, I mean, their defense is pretty stout, especially their front seven. I mean, Myles Garrett, what more can you say about him? I mean, he's on the verge of setting the single season sack record, which is huge. But then obviously Mason Graham, their linebackers are playing phenomenal. Schweisinger is just a beast. I mean, really, I guess I'll kind of start here. The whole rookie class, like the Browns really did a phenomenal job with their rookie class this year. Mason Graham starting off, Quinshon Judkins has been phenomenal. Schweisinger, Harold Fannin. I mean, if Andrew Berry was in trouble of his job going into the season, I mean, this draft class very well could save it while they tried to figure out the quarterback position. They got a lot of pieces, and at times it feels like they can put it together. I feel like they're starting to find something a little bit. They're starting to find an identity with Shedeur Sanders. The last 3 games that he started, it hasn't been pretty. I know they're 1-2, but it just kind of feels like this team, at the very least, they're putting those pieces together in a way that makes them a little bit more dangerous than you might think.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, and I like that you mentioned the rookie class because they just have there are a few playmakers in there who are just very impressive right now. But man, I gotta tell you, I flipped on earlier this evening. I flipped on that Titans Browns game because, like, I don't know how many households in America even got that game last week, right? But it was one of the weirdest games I feel like I've ever seen. And the announcer said this at the start of the game. They're like, it's a heated field, and I guess Cleveland maintains the temperature of their field at 70 degrees. And it was snowing and well below freezing in Cleveland. And that field was just drenched. It was just soaked all game. Like, guys, it felt like they had no grip on they were just sliding all over. And I was watching, I'm like, I feel like I can't get any judgment of either of these teams based on this game because it's just a slop fest out here. And I don't know if that's normal for a Cleveland game in Cleveland this time of year or not, but it was just kind of shocking to me of like, I truly don't think I gained any real insight from watching that entire game outside of like 1 or 2 Shedeur throws where I'm like, okay, those were nice. And Jerry Jeudy's still fast was like the other takeaway I had. And I guess the defensive takeaway I had was it seemed to me like they are trying to get Myles Garrett the sack record hell or high water because suddenly they couldn't stop the run.
Yeah. No, you're right. I was sorry. I was just gonna say I was shocked by that. It really it felt like their whole identity shifted.
Mhm.
And because they played the 49ers way tougher than that, and just suddenly there's wide open holes for Tony Pollard, and Cam Ward's able to slice and dice them. Yeah, it just kind of felt like there was a mentality shift there. And I mean, look, if it's a lost season and you're trying to get your guy, a record like that, fine, hats off to you, I guess. But you're right, Q. It was very weird. I mean, all the way up until the final play of the game with the 2-point conversion, just nothing about that seemed right at all.
Yeah, and the announcers kept mentioning that some of the run struggles were Myles Garrett kept going far upfield, right, and creating a big gap on his side. It was like early in the game, I was like, the Titans just keep running it at Garrett. This is weird. Garrett's a good run defender, but they're having success. And once they started talking about how far upfield he's getting, I was like, okay, so he's just not respecting play action at all. They're just going for the sack record, and that's it. They do that against the Bears. I love it. I'm here for that. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But Seth, do you have any comment that you want to add in there?
Well, I mean, you do have to factor in they lost. His first name's escaping me. Collins.
Yeah, Malik Collins.
Losing him definitely skewed things because, I mean, yes, he's a known person, but he is an unsung hero on that defense. He's a very good defensive lineman, and not having him definitely changes the landscape of how you can run at them. So that definitely was interesting and almost fun to see from a Bears perspective of like, okay, the people like falling into place after him, which, I mean, we've noticed that all the time with our defense and players being out, like, okay, we can pick on certain things. because you can give more attention to Myles Garrett in ways that you couldn't before.
Mm-hmm. And actually, going back to the other side of the line, Seth kind of brought up some losses. The offensive line has suffered some losses as well. Posich was out, so now you get Luke Whippler. You can see that nice little red mark. Just Q's special grading system don't look too good at center, which I think would benefit of considerably weak Bears defensive line up front. And we get to see old friend Tevin Jenkins. He started, he was rotating with Wyatt Teller the last couple weeks, but then this past week, I guess Teller has been hurt. So Jenkins got his first start. He played every snap, guys. Tevin Jenkins did not leave the field for once. I think that's pretty big for him. So I think it's going to be interesting to see him back at Soldier Field. Tevin was a guy who kind of made it known that he wasn't thrilled with how things went during his time in Chicago. I mean, there's a lot there. So I think he's going to be juiced up to play this game. I'm interested to see how he performs, especially on that right side. You're facing Montez Sweat. You're going to have Grady Jarrett, Javon Dexter. That's going to be interesting. And so not only do you have some guys that maybe aren't as good as the starters, you're also having some line chemistry things that you have to account for too, since you're having two interior starters change out.
Yeah, that's a great point. I noticed Tev a few times throughout last week's game that I just rewatched, and he looks slimmed down to me. He looked like he was a little leaner out there, which might be a coaching point relative to what the Bears had the last few years. But Seth, thank you for bringing up Malik Collins, because I meant to touch on that. You're right. That's a huge loss for the Browns. They lost him against the 49ers. And that was the guy who made you pay for double teaming Myles Garrett on this defensive line. And he's a strong run defender at the same time. He is a real asset that they are missing now that, they have Shelby Harris, they have Mason Graham. So they're still okay there, but he was probably their best defensive tackle.
There is one loss, and it was a few years ago, but I think you're still seeing the dividends in a negative sense, and that was the fact that Bill Callahan left the staff, because the offensive line has not been the same since he left. I mean, it's one of the best offensive line coaches I've seen in my time, and I think that's been the other aspect of their offense that has really hurt, is when you don't have somebody like that in the building. That really makes an impact. And we've seen that, because it's not like they don't have talent on the offensive line. I just don't think it's being coached up the same way it has over the last few years. And that's one of those sneaky things that most fans don't think about, is, some of the really good coaches that have left that staff.
Yeah, no, losing Callahan was a giant loss for them when he went to go to the Titans to coach with his son. And you're right. They do have talent, but they're also so injured all the time. Jack Conklin's still awesome for the 4 games a year he's available. It's kind of that. It feels like they had a really great offensive line 5 years ago. It's just they are still relying on some of those same guys who just aren't the same level of availability anymore. And it's been interesting to see how that kind of dwindled after Callahan left. Because I would think Callahan would typically have a better plan in place. But with all that being said, guys, you ready to get into our first segment here?
Let's do it.
All right.
The baddest man.
All right. With it being Seth's first time on the show, I'm going to toss this one to him first. Seth, who is your baddest man on the Cleveland Browns roster? And you don't have to go obvious if you don't want to, but you're welcome to.
Well, I won't go obvious. I'm going to go in terms of what I see can impact against the Bears in the biggest way, and that's Harold Fanning Jr. That guy is a beast. I was very high on him coming out of the draft. He was my number 3 tight end in the class, and they use him so much out of the slot. I believe he's in the slot about a little over 44% of the time. And a lot of the big explosives that the Bears dealt with came from the slot, especially with Kyler being out. And that guy can make plays, and he's not too shabby in the run game either. And he's a guy who can very easily take over. I believe in the last week he had over 100 yards receiving, and if they can utilize him in the slot, it can be a dangerous game for the CJ. And if Kyler does play, we'll see how healthy he is. It'd be trouble for both of them.
Yeah, a rookie tight end who's leading his team in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. Like he was the bell cow at Bowling Green, and he's turned that into being the bell cow pass catcher with the Cleveland Browns now. Really good story. Was a big fan of him, just like you, coming out of the draft. He's just a freaky athlete, and I like that pick for you, Seth. I like that one there because I think it's one that is important to note, being their top pass catcher. To state the obvious, I guess. But just from his athletic ability standpoint, he's such a different football player. Brendan, where are you going for your baddest man on the Cleveland Browns?
I had Fan and Circle as well on my short list. And just side note, this could be one of the really like great tight end classes of all time if Colson Loveland, Tyler Warren continues to pan out, Harold Fannin. So that's fun to watch. I'm not going to go super obvious, but I am going to stay with the rookie class, and I'm going to go with Carson Schweizinger, the standout linebacker from UCLA, one of the top picks in the second round. This dude has been a baller. He's definitely in contention for Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's had double-digit tackles in each of his last 5 games. He's piling them up. He plays the pass well. He plays the run well. He's just kind of it's like a speeding bullet. And I think that's going to impact the Bears run game because we know there's some guys up top or, on the front that could potentially give the Bears problems on the offensive line. But then once you get in the second level, I think Carson is going to be a step up in class on what they just faced with the Packers. And there were times where they were able to run on the Packers, but some guys crashed down and made things a little bit harder for DeAndre Swift, Kyle Monangai. And I think with some of the tight ends that the Bears have, getting Colston Loveland involved, he could be a pretty good match for that. So I just, I think Carson Schweizinger, he's going to have a busy day. I'm sure he's going to, rack up a ton of tackles. But by the end of the day, they're going to be calling his name a lot. And hopefully it's, after like a 5 to 10 yard gain instead of crashing the line of scrimmage. But he's been phenomenal. I think he's definitely one of their baddest men.
Dude was so much fun to watch at UCLA. I mean, he's such a weird story coming out of college because like he didn't play until his senior year, which was last season, and then it was just like he came out of nowhere and just putting up all these like these tackle numbers and these great stats. You flip on the film and you were like, this 220-pound linebacker is doing this. And then you'd see him like stack and shed an offensive guard, and it's like, this dude's 220 pounds. I love Schweizinger. I think he's such a fun football player. My jaw dropped when the Browns took him 33rd overall because I did not think that you could justify taking a linebacker that size there. But like he's proven them right. He's playing outstanding football, so he's a great choice right there. For my baddest man, I mean, I had some place I want to go, but I need to go Myles Garrett at this point, right? Like Myles Garrett needs to be discussed because he is. I mean, I have my biases. I like edge rushers who are big, bulky, and powerful. So, like last week, I talked some about how like Micah Parsons doesn't fit what my archetype of an edge rusher is. Myles Garrett is my dream edge rusher, right? He's everyone's dream edge rusher because he can play all 3 downs. He can dominate every phase of the football game. And I have to imagine he's going to be going up quite a bit against Ozzie Trapillo in this one. Like last week, we saw Micah Parsons in the red zone. He didn't play red zone. And he bounced all over the formation, right? Like on passing downs, there were multiple times where we went, hey, we know Jonah Jackson can't move left. We're just going to have him spike left from like a 3-tech spot. Worked great for him, right? You're not really going to see that with Myles Garrett as much. You're going to see him play just a lot more traditional end. He will kick inside on occasion, but like he doesn't tend to follow a matchup anywhere on the O line like a Micah Parsons did. So I would expect to see a lot of him matched up against Trapillo in this game, which is, might be a problem for a guy who has had a sack in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a sack in 7 straight games, and currently leads the NFL with 20 sacks on a defense that has seen the fewest pass attempts of any team in the NFL this year. That sack percentage is pretty outrageous. So, yeah, it's going to be an adventure watching Myles Garrett this week, and hopefully the Bears can keep the ball on the ground and keep Caleb safe from him. Because I just have this loop running in my head of Trent Williams just getting punked by Myles Garrett a few weeks ago. And Trent's not what he was 3 years ago. Don't get me wrong, but he's still really, really good. And Myles Garrett just he's going to get his no matter who he's against. So he's a problem. He's, in my opinion, has to be the baddest man on the field in this game.
He also accounted for my favorite moment of the season when he had the Packers offensive lineman screaming "Jordan, Jordan." That had to be one of my favorite moments of the season so far.
It's a great point.
Man, I forgot about that. Oh man, Q. I was gonna say, we all would have picked Myles Garrett, obviously. He's definitely the best man. Who was the other one you were thinking of? Just curious.
This offense runs through Quinshon Judkins, and he's a bad dude.
Yeah,
I like his efficiency has gone up and down at times this year. I think it really has gone more with their quarterback play and O-line than anything, because there have been times where their offense is very predictable that it's Quinshon, and more Quinshon because they really couldn't throw the football and couldn't block that well either. But Judkins is just he was probably my favorite back from a Power 5 school last year. Outside of Ashton Jeanty Hughes, I loved Quinshon Judkins, and he is just a ball of muscle who can juke you out or he can run you over. He can do both. There is really not many limits to what he can do with the football in his hands, and he's just a big play waiting to happen a lot of times when you get him the football in space. So that was where I was leaning. Otherwise, my other thoughts were Fannin, were Schwessinger. I feel like Devin Bush has had a good year for them, but I haven't watched enough to actually say that's who I would be afraid of, because he's had his ups and downs in his career. Denzel Ward is a guy who historically probably needs to be discussed a little, but he's injured somewhat. We're not sure what his status is for this game. And the same, while I'm talking injuries, David Njoku is also, he got injured last week. We're not sure what his status will be in this one either. And sorry, one more. There's one more guy who crossed my mind, and this was largely related to the Packers game. The Packers showed that if you can get the Bears blitzing and man coverage, that you can expose CJ in the slot with speed, right? Jerry Jeudy is a slot with speed who only beats man coverage. That, I feel like that's worth mentioning, just from an aspect of what we saw last week from speed killing us out of the slot.
Has he been in the slot much this year? I feel like that. I feel like he's been really underutilized, partially because they haven't used him in the slot. But maybe I'm misnoting that. But I feel like, and that's due to part of his production this year being down. I feel like they've used him a lot on the outside this year, more than in years past.
It's a good question. I assume it's both. I mean, I would think if you're playing Jerry Jeudy, you kind of know we need to use him in the slot at least this much for him to be worthwhile to us. He's been in the slot, looks like about 18% of his snaps. So you're right. Not that often, but he's probably more matchup and situational based, I would assume, when he's in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they do put him in the slot, that'd be a very scary matchup, rotating between him and Fannin Jr. That's not a matchup I would like to see very often.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get to our next segment here.
The nicest man.
All right, since I tossed the first one to Seth, I'm going to toss this one to you, Brendan. Who is your nicest man on the Cleveland Browns?
You guys set this up perfectly. So that was a great segue talking about Jerry Jeudy because Harold Fannin Jr. is eating. Jerry Jeudy is eating at times. He definitely has big moments. What exactly is Cedric Tillman doing on the field these days? Their wide receiver too. First off, the Browns wide receiver depth is a joke. It's so bad. You got guys like I know Malachi Corley. I think he's hurt, but he was on there. Isaiah Bond. He's hit or miss as kind of a deep threat. But Cedric Tillman is their wide receiver too. Has pretty much done nothing since Shador Sanders has been in the lineup. So since he started a couple weeks ago against the Raiders, the last 3 games, Cedric Tillman has 7 targets, 2 catches, 28 yards. He's virtually invisible. They don't throw to him. Obviously, this offense runs through the tight ends, runs through Jeudy, runs through Quinshon Judkins. If I'm Dennis Allen, I don't even put a cornerback on him. Just double the other guys and figure it out. But no, he's really any of the other Browns wide receivers you can pick. They're just not a threat. They don't do anything. So I'm just going to go Cedric Tillman because he's non-existent.
Man, you didn't do me like that. That's Cedric Tillman. So, like I said, I have my type with edge rushers. They happen to have the same body type as my type at wide receiver because Cedric Tillman is that. Like, he's just a big body dude who can't really separate, right? Like, and I fall in love with those dudes all the time in the draft process, and then I have to like slap myself out of it because you're right. Tillman has not done much at the NFL level, period. It's not even just this year. He's just been like constantly like, maybe this guy will finally like start to show something and just not quite there. But Seth,
wait, hold on. You fall in love with the big bodied wide receivers who just post up guys they can't separate at all. Like, are you like a Hakeem Butler stan or something?
No, not so. Hakeem Butler was before I even attempted to scout wide receivers. But like Keon Coleman was my dude.
I love Keon Coleman too. I'm not gonna lie.
But like, I mean, I liked Cedric Tillman in that draft, even though he just ran like only curl routes at Tennessee. I somehow talked myself into that being awesome. So yeah, I like the big body dudes who can just dunk. But Seth, where are you going for your nicest man?
Honestly, I'd have to go. I was torn between Isaiah Bond and the guy that I'm going to choose, but since he went receiver, I'm going to go with Miles Harden. He's just not been good. And if by chance Rome is healthy enough to give it a go, he has had a lot of success out of the slot. And I see that being a matchup they can take a ton of advantage of. But really, any wide receiver you put in the slot is going to have the ability to take advantage of him because he has just not been sound in any way, at least from what I've seen this season.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. I mean, it's the weak spot in their secondary for sure. Like when you look at like Tyson Campbell is a quality player. Denzel Ward is a very good corner historically when he's healthy. Harden is just kind of, I mean, frankly, personally, when I see Harden, I'm like, who? Like I just don't know much about him other than the numbers say that he's not good. So I mean, I have to agree with you. That's to me, that's the first place if you're putting together a scouting report or like a game plan, you're like, well, his numbers say he isn't good. So maybe we should attack that. Let's dig deeper, and like I feel like that's the depth of where my opinion on Harden sits. But for myself, I'm going with Luke Whippler, and I kind of like Whippler in the draft that he came out in, but he fell to the 6th round. He didn't have 6th round tape in that draft, so that to me that said there's either like an injury thing or like a personality or work ethic thing or something, and that seems to be backed up by a guy who this is his 3rd year in the NFL. He's played 118 NFL snaps. They do not want Luke Whippler playing. So to me, that is the guy you need to attack, right? They don't want him out there. but they have to have him out there. So that's the guy that you have opportunities to really go after and try to, he has to be the brain of this offensive line with a rookie quarterback, and he is the center. Unless Batonio is like calling stuff out, we know Tevin Jenkins isn't the guy who's there getting everyone in the right place, right mindset of where they need to go each play. Like Whippler has to be the brain of this O-line, and I have serious questions as to whether he can do that. So that's my nicest man for the Browns.
Luke Whippler is he's on the Mount Rushmore, the Hall of Fame of just third round players. I'm sorry, day 3 players that Bears fans are just pounding their fists on the table for over and over, just saying, we need the center, we need Luke Whippler. He joins Adetobi, Adebori, Anthony Gordon, just guys of that ilk, where everybody was just convinced that they need to get these guys, and they just don't turn out to be anything.
That's a great callback. Great. I can toss you one, Cole McDonald, who I was high on Cole McDonald out of Hawaii. But let's keep this moving. Let's toss this back to Seth. Who's the nicest man for the Bears this week?
Well, that's difficult because I feel like there's quite a few to choose from. He's definitely not the nicest on the field, but C.J. Gardner-Johnson got picked on and picked apart last week, and that worries me from a few perspectives because if Kyler's out, and it's very likely that he's going to be, he's going to be relied on a lot, and given all the tape they just saw on him in coverage, he's definitely a nice guy to attack, in the slot. And given how last week went, I could see him also, adding some penalties due to frustrations along the way. So he seems like a guy that's going to probably get picked on quite a bit in the passing game.
Now, did you guys see Ben Johnson's comments on Kyler Gordon today? I thought they're kind of interesting.
Yeah.
How,
from yesterday. Yeah.
Or from yesterday, then. Yeah. Sorry, I just got off a plane at like 1 p.m. today. I'm all jumbled as to what happened when. I saw it today. Interesting the way it's like, I don't know the guy that well, and like it's kind of, I don't know, it feels the way that he's talking about it feels like the guy who just got paid in Kyler Gordon, like his job might be in question going into next year. And can the Bears rely on Kyler Gordon next year?
You can't rely on him this year. I mean, like that's definitely a question that needs to be asked in the offseason. But you're talking about a guy who suffered 3 lower body injuries in practice and warm-ups. Like, these are not game situations. And if I'm Ben Johnson, yeah, I'm pissed because both he and Dennis Allen name-checked Kyler Gordon as a guy that they were thrilled to work with, excited about, just figured he would just be a fantastic chess piece to move around the defense. And he's been active for a total of 3 games. And when you get hurt in warmups of all things, like at some point, I think like the frustration from Ben Johnson is totally warranted because it happens once. Okay. Things happen in training camp, whatever, you get healthy. Happens twice. Like, okay, well, maybe something happened in a game, but a third time, especially right before a game when you're being counted on and he probably changes. I don't know how much he changed, but his absence changes what Dennis Allen wants to do. Yeah, I'd be pissed. So, I mean, so Ben Johnson's comments about him, like, I don't know the player. I need to get to know the player when he's on the field. Like, that really, to me, is a challenge to Kyler Gordon. Like, hey, you want to be a part of this team and be a part of this core like we all think you can. Find a way to get on the field. Because I feel similarly. It's just this is crazy that this has happened 3 times now from a practice injury.
Well, and it's so frustrating because it's almost, and this week is fitting to talk about it. It's almost like the Tevin Jenkins thing. We saw flashes of really good play, just could not stay on the field, and because of that, they let him walk. But with Kyler, he had enough flashes where they decided to make him the highest paid nickel corner in the league. And right now that's a lot of money tied up in a spot that's He's just not been on the field, and that's been a running theme for him his whole career so far.
Yeah, it's tough. I think in my mind they either have to like target a nickel or a safety who can play nickel in the draft, or bring CJ back. Like those are their two options this offseason, because I'm not sure how you can count on Kyler Gordon to be a day one starter and available all year for you. And like that's a great point, Brendan, about how that impacted the game plan last week. Because you're right, that might have changed their coverage calls, what they had practiced, what they had ready to go. And after one of the times CJ got burned, he was talking back and forth with someone. I didn't catch who it was, but it was like there was clearly some confusion on who had what there. And it's probably because that was Kyler Gordon's spot. Like that was what he was there for his, his freaky athleticism that Kyler Gordon has. You're like, okay, they put Christian Watson here. We know they're going to try to go deep in 4-man coverage. Like that's where Kyler's quick change of direction ability and all that really comes into play, where CJ can't press up on the line the same way like Kyler could in that situation, because he just can't. He doesn't have the same quicks. That's really interesting. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, I think it really tweaked what they were going to do defensively, because I bet they were planning on using a lot more dime looks. And that dime package looks a lot different with CJ and Kyler than CJ and McLeod.
Yeah.
And obviously Jalen not being fully the Jalen we've been used to. And I bet that really threw a wrench in everything, because that's, specifically where the Packers just attacked repeatedly.
Yeah. Now, Brendan, where are you going for your nicest man on the Bears?
I keep going back and forth on this. There's a few guys that I have listed. There's one obvious one. All right, I'm gonna go DJ Moore. And I think I'm just past the point of waiting for that big DJ Moore game for him to finally show that, hey, he belongs in this offense. He's a dependable weapon for Caleb Williams. It's just not happening. And I was shocked by his lack of involvement on Sunday, especially with Rome Odunze out, because you figured, look, DJ Moore, up until that point for the last 2 years, he had not played a game without Rome Odunze. And you can kind of see Odunze becoming that wide receiver one where that DJ Moore used to have. So I figured he would kind of revert back to that 2023 version of him, where he would get peppered with a lot more targets. They would utilize him a little bit deeper. I figured he would just be more involved, and he had his worst game of his career. That's not hyperbole. -4 yards, 1 catch. The one target that he had that he should have, or he didn't hold on to, thankfully, he would have had -8 yards. It's unbelievable how just little of a factor he is in this offense. And for whatever reason, whether it's a Ben Johnson thing, whether it's a Caleb Williams thing, it does not matter who the team is anymore. DJ Moore just is not a factor unless it's a broken play. That's the only time he was doing anything, and that was back a few weeks ago against the Steelers. I have no faith in him that he's going to be a factor. Even against, if he's in the slot against Harden, who you guys called out as just being the nicest man. Yeah, DJ Moore is my nicest man. It's crazy. I think we're counting down the days until he's packing his bags out of Chicago, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that we haven't seen any attempts to get him involved in the passing game from the backfield, because he's been in the backfield, right? Like you'd think they would have taken there's some concepts that they want to do in the pass game with that, where they, where he wouldn't have to stay in protection. They'd have like tight ends available to stay in protection if needed, and they could get DJ on a mismatch, because I feel like that's the whole point of using him in the backfield, just try to get one of those mismatches. Just very, very odd that hasn't happened, and maybe telling of, what they think of the player at this point. But for my nicest man, I'm going to go with the collective here. I'm going with the defensive tackle room. I need you guys. Like in this game, this is almost like more of a challenge to them than saying like I don't think you will be good. It's like I need you guys to show me something, because against this interior, I think that they should be able to find answers here and should be able to do stuff. But like I thought they should be able to do stuff last week too. And I do think that they're playing the run fairly well right now. Especially like I constantly hear that Javon Dexter's a bad run defender, and he has some poor moments, but most defensive tackles in this league do. He's held up, in my opinion, he's held up a lot of run lanes to allow other guys to make plays. But we're talking nicest, man. I'm getting off on a tangent there. I need them to get involved in the pass rush. Javon Dexter is not showing much in the pass rush this year, in my opinion. Grady Jarrett, he showed some flashes there a few weeks ago, but now it's kind of like I feel like it's dwindled off now. I'm really not counting on Billings for much in the pass rush in his current state. I think he's just too big, but I need Dexter and Jarrett to give me better push, more push, and especially Dexter in the pass rush. I just feel like he comes across so clunky to me, and it's like for all the stunts they're running, I need him to be a little quicker to diagnose and to get to the stunt that he needs to get to, because if they can't get a pass rush against this Cleveland offensive line, they're not going to get pass rush against anybody. And honestly, this could have gone to the edge room or the D tackle room. I just feel like the D tackle room has more talent in it right now.
And finish the tackles, for the love of God.
Yeah.
When you get home, actually finish.
Yeah.
And with Dexter, it's just so frustrating because especially in like training camp and other things, we've seen flashes where it's like he's this close to taking a step. And then as the season gets rolling, it's just like, where's your pass rush arsenal? What do you have in your tool belt that you can use? And like, there are times where I'm like, I don't know if he has anything in the belt other than his size and length. Like it just, there are times where his hand placement, it's like, what's going on here? There's no setups. There's nothing there with him at times where it's like, you have the talent and ability to do things. You're just not. And it's so frustrating because the easiest way to impact a quarterback in a run game is to blow up the middle. And they thought Dexter was going to be that guy, and he has not been in that way. So I think that's a perfect call.
Well, it's another weird thing with that, because like he has pretty short arms, right? Like I think that is really what is limiting him, because he does. You're right. He doesn't have good hand placement. He hasn't learned a ton of hand fighting moves. He has some. Most of his hand fighting is just punching the guy in front of him until he gets out of the way, which works okay if that's what your role is going to be, just a bruiser. Which is kind of where I think, like, in Fluz's scheme, he was, one gap, get upfield, and you could see that more for him because he could just use that burst upfield. In this scheme where he's supposed to engage the blocker and then control the blocker, I think those shorter arms are becoming more of an issue because he doesn't have disengagement techniques with his hands. And yeah, it makes me wonder, like, if in this defense, I almost think that he's better served as a one tech to two tech, one tech than the three tech he was in Eberflus's scheme, because it's just using his raw power to say people aren't moving him, basically. But I realized once we started the nicest man that we skipped over the Bears' baddest men. So we're gonna finish this segment on a high note and toss it to you, Brendan. Who is the baddest man on the Bears this week?
I'm gonna go Kyle Monangai. Just again, the brute force that he brings in the run game is a thing of beauty. You saw it last week against the Packers, just keeping the legs churning, always falling forward, never going down on first contact. And clearly, as we saw, if what we mainly UQ, I wasn't coming to the same conclusions that you were about just the Browns trying to get Myles Garrett the sack record. But if they do kind of have the same sort of deal where they're not playing the run as hard, Tony Pollard can run all over them with the Titans. I think Kyle Monangai is really going to have a big game and just, continue to punch it up the gut. Malik Collins being out, that's another defensive lineman that is a run, could be a great run stuffer that they just don't have right now. And I mentioned with Schweisinger, let's see those pads pop at the second level and see who comes out on top. I think Monangai he's really found his footing. He's trusting what he sees, and the toughness has just not gone away. It's crazy. And I know we've talked about it before on these shows, guys, but it is crazy to just think how far he's come from even the first preseason game where it kind of just looked like he didn't know what the hell he was doing, to now being so decisive with where he's going with the ball. I think this is a big opportunity for him. And frankly, as we know that the Browns don't have a lot of passing yards against them, I'm sure the Bears are going to want to keep the ball on the ground, keep, the clock churning. It just, not that they can't, get a decisive win, but just keep the ball, get out of there with a win, establish a running game and keep with it, and make sure Caleb doesn't get hurt by Myles Garrett.
Yeah, I think Monangai was my top pick for this one too. So, I mean, it's just, he's running the ball with such tenacity. I'm excited to see it against this defense if they're playing the same way they played the Titans last week. But Seth, where are you going for your baddest man on the Bears this week?
Well, I'm with you. I had Monangai as my guy initially, but I'm gonna throw a little bit of a curveball and try to speak something into existence. I'm gonna give some credence to Austin Booker. I think given the matchup versus the left tackle and Shadour's kind of propensity to dance and run around in the pocket, the speed that Booker has, I think lends itself to some of those plays where he's holding onto the ball for an extended period of time where Booker can wreck a game. Because there's been some flashes with his straight arm and some of the other things he's doing where you're like, oh, if he puts a few more things together and adds some weight, this guy could be something. And I think this is the type of game that lends to his skill set and can allow him to just chase down, because his first step's explosive and he could very easily come away with a few sacks and game-changing plays in this one.
Yeah, Seth, I know you said it's a bit of a wild card. You're not crazy. Thought crossed my mind. I thought this could be a big Austin Booker game, and those words have never come out of my mouth in my life. Like, I've always been more tempered on Booker in general because there's just been such a long way for him to go. But I feel like this game could really play into him putting up some really nice numbers, especially if the Bears can get an early lead and force the Browns into passing situations. But for me, for my baddest man, it's Kevin Byard. 2 picks. Give me 2 picks for Kevin Byard in this game. I think Dennis Allen is going to have some fun against Shadur Sanders. I think Kevin Byard is going to be a big part of that fun. So simple as that. But let's go ahead and get to our final segment here.
Keys to victory.
All right, starting with Seth. What is a key to victory for the Chicago Bears against the Cleveland Browns?
Well, it's going to be running the ball. They have to get off, metaphorically, the bus running. This is, their ability to do so. One of the things we haven't talked about is that the wind chill is expected to be around like -20 or something ridiculous like that. It's going to be even harder to throw the ball than it was, a week ago. They're going to have to run and run a lot. And that's also, more than likely the best way to attack this defense and control the clock. They're going to have to run more like they did against the Eagles than they did against the Packers in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is we don't need that graphic up anymore. I think that's probably pretty consensus. Great key to this game is pounding the rock after what we saw against Tennessee last week. It's make them prove that that's not them, right? Because if that's who they are, I think every team in the NFL is going to be saying that is what we need to do against this team, But Brendan, how about you? What is a key to the game for this week?
I'll give you two. One of them is more X's and O's. One of them is a philosophical thing. I'd say the key to the game is, I'll give you three. Screw it. Quick. Protect Caleb Williams at all costs and just make sure Myles Garrett cannot be a factor. You saw it last week against the Packers early on. They were not kind of scheming away from Micah Parsons. He was blowing up plays. He wasn't getting home, but he was blowing up plays where Caleb had to throw it away and just get 3 and outs and all of that. So take the play away from where Myles Garrett is, neutralize him, get him in no man's land, whatever the case, because obviously he can be a game wrecker. And going against somebody like Ozzie Trapillo, you need to make sure that he's got some help too. So just make sure that Garrett cannot be a factor in this game, not only for the sack record, because that would suck, to see that happen at Soldier Field, but also just, to keep Caleb upright and keep the offense on the field. Defensively, you mentioned it with Kevin Byard, just really impact Shedeur Sanders and make him kind of, play. I don't want to say make him play quarterback because that just feels wrong, but throw different looks at him, confuse him. You've got veterans in the back 7 now with TJ Edwards back, who is a very smart player. Kevin Byard. This could be a big Jalen Johnson game comeback. And I'm very interested to see how Shedeur plays in the cold. So just kind of make him uncomfortable, force him into bad decisions. And I think you do have a game where you potentially can get 4 takeaways. That's going to be interesting to see. And then my philosophical thing is just refocus. I think this team really started to buy into their own hype. The Ben Johnson shirt thing, it was awesome. It was all anybody talked about. Everybody was feeling themselves. And what do they do against the Packers? They lose yards in each of their first 2 possessions, and they really don't find themselves until the second half. Reestablish your identity, refocus, and don't focus on the now, because I think a lot of people are thinking ahead to December 20th against the Packers again. I want them to just take care of business. Doesn't have to be the prettiest thing, but just focus on the task at hand and reestablish what you are, which is a very good football team.
Yeah, I think that's very well said and very I can't help but agree. I do think, and I thought it a few times across the winning streak, but it was never as loud as when the shirt came off. It was okay, this is getting to hysteria points of this has got to start bleeding in at some point. For my key to the game, I mean, it's Christmas season. And before I get to that, we have a great comment here. Baddest man by far is Joe Tooney. Always and forever. We can never let that go understated. But it's Christmas time. What do you do? In between Thanksgiving and Christmas, what do? You light up the Christmas tree. Chicago Bears need to light up Shedeur Sanders like a Christmas tree. Blitz, blitz, blitz. Attack him until he proves that he can beat it, because he hasn't really proven he can beat it in the NFL yet. And if there's one defense coordinator who's going to make him prove it, it's Dennis Allen. I want to see them on attack mode when it makes sense, right? When they're in clear passing situations and, like we said, Jerry Jeudy's in the slot, maybe that's not the time to do it. But I want them to really go on full attack on this kid and make him prove in a hostile environment where it's under 10 degrees. Like we said early in the show, evidently Cleveland keeps their field at 70 degrees in the winter. Chicago don't. Make him feel it. Go hit him. Get that more than 5 defenders coming at him, and with a Luke Whippler at center. I was about to say a rookie, not really a rookie, but a rookie experience wise. Make life hard on him. So that's my main key to the game. But gentlemen, any final thoughts you want to throw out there before we get to score predictions?
I got a fun fact for you guys.
What's that?
Well, they haven't met often, and you might be surprised that the Browns lead the overall series against the Bears. I think it's 11-9 or something. But did you know it has been? Let me do the math. I'm not going to do the math. It's been since 1969 that the Browns have last beat the Bears at Soldier Field.
Wow.
So I feel pretty good.
Is that partially because I feel like we haven't played them in Chicago in a while? I feel like that's part of it. I feel
A
like
little bit, but
the games I remember.
they've played like 4 or 5 times since then, I
Okay.
think. So it's you're right. It's obviously it's been like every 8 years. But still, I was thinking it'd be something like maybe the 90s or maybe the 80s. I was like 1969 is a pretty long time.
Yeah.
And yet the Browns still lead the overall series record. So that's pretty sad that the Browns
When was the
have
first
the upper
game?
hand.
Do you have it pulled up? Like how long does this date back to?
Hold on, I can.
Because I feel like these are two like really old franchises, right? So there might be a ton of matchups from like the 30s or something.
This football database, I use it quite a bit for stuff.
Yeah.
This only goes back to 1951.
Okay. Still, that is up there as far as NFL terms. Even there was a long time that, right? I guess I don't even know how many teams were in the league in 1951. There's still 14 game schedule. Interesting. But why don't we go ahead and get to the score predictions there? Brendan, how do you see this one going?
I don't think it's going to be a high scoring affair. Like I said, I think the Bears just do what they need to do, take care of business, and get on their merry way. I have this one 21-10. I really do think that Shador is going to throw a couple picks. Somebody probably loses a football in the bitter cold, and both teams just kind of want to get out of there in the fourth quarter. It's going to be a big running game, as Seth mentioned. So I got 21-10 Bears.
Seth, how do you see it going?
I see it being a little bit closer than that, mostly because I do expect, given the cold and everything, the Browns to run the ball a bunch as well, given that they do have 2 pretty solid running backs. I originally, in my head, had the Bears losing, kind of akin to last year after the Washington thing, but I'm going to try to stay positive here. I'm going to say 17-14. With a sneaky Cairo field goal to close it out.
Oh my goodness.
If the Bears lose this one, Chicago's gonna be hell on earth. Like it'll be miserable.
No, and that's why they need to refocus. They can't let this be like the Fail Mary. Like they have to refocus, because this is one of those games and a trap game where if they lose, wheels could come off quick, because they've not really faced that level of adversity yet. Like the Lions beating was rough, but that was so early on. Like this is their first just gut punch of a loss where they had it, because the Baltimore game, that was over. Like it felt like 10 minutes in. They're going to have to show that they can be legitimately resilient. I hope they can, but this is one of those games where it almost kind of feels like a must win.
But Seth, you wanted to pick a loss though, right?
Yes, but it more stems from not fully trusting this team in adversity yet until they prove they can. I kind of have a long-standing tradition of like I haven't really picked them against the Packers until this last week, and that blew up in my face. But to make a long rant short, they haven't earned my trust in these moments yet. Yes, they've had like these nice wins and these cool things, but like they haven't earned the bounce back from a truly gut-wrenching loss yet. It's one of those things of like, show me you can do it, and then I'll believe. I've just seen too many years of this where it's like, oh man, we're doing all these cool things, and then it just wheels come off at the wrong time. And maybe it's a little bit of the last time we played the Browns, like even then they weren't that good, but they can take over a game quickly if they don't game plan for the right people. And, so there was an element in my brain that's like, if Caleb comes out really, really nervous, trying to make things happen, it could be one of those games where the Browns get a lead. And I think this Bears team has to play with a lead at this point. I don't know that they're going to be able to continue coming back from things against teams that can run the ball and play defense well.
Interesting. I mean, I do think that there's a fair point there about playing from behind. Like, this team hasn't proven a lot that you can trust them to play from behind. We're just kind of trusting that. I mean, we did see it against the Packers, but like it ended up being a loss. But it's a lot of trust in Caleb Williams becoming Superman for that to work. I think that's a valid point. But Rick in the comments does not agree. Says Bears 30, Browns 0. And my prediction is more similar to Rick, believe it or not, because I don't think I've picked the Bears to lose except for once this year. I got the Bears winning 24-10. Kind of along the lines of what Brendan said. I think just take care of business and move on. They're not going to, do a ton of throwing the ball in this game, I don't think. I think it's going to be a quick game. And I think the defense will largely take care of business. Hopefully we're right on that. But gentlemen, anything else you want to get off your chest before we give out a bear down and close this thing out? All right. Well, then Why don't we exit with a good old-fashioned bear down, and we will talk to everyone next week.
All right, bear down. Let's do it.
Bear down.